Now that I've blocked in the main colors, it's time to go in with the second layer. I've got a good idea of my value patterns, so I start with the darkest colors, and I'm just touching my brush into the linseed oil and then placing the darkest color where I see it, beginning with the eyelashes. By having all my colors pre-mixed and changing brushes when I change colors or values, then I can just carry on and paint. Eyebrows are next. I've already worked out all the details, gotten the beginning of the value pattern, so that helps build confidence in the next layer. The eyes and the lips will be done quite carefully after that. I've got a little more leeway to loosen up just a bit. And I'll begin with the darkest areas of the skin, where the light reaches less. This is very subtle in this little face because the light is not really strong, but there are still definite differences in value and color in certain areas. Especially when the value changes are subtle, I'm really looking for color changes. It's a little bit of a different color down here. Some areas more red, other areas just a little cooler color. And I'm continuing to work dark to light. So working in the darker shadow areas, in the hollows of the eyes. And I move around the portrait anywhere I see this darker color. That's one of the benefits of having the colors pre-mixed. Some of the shadow areas under the nose. And by gradually working from dark to light, it's easy to see the structure of the face. A little more challenging if I was jumping all over with different colors and values. I'll be quite careful in this area of the face. A little less worried about detail in the hands, and by the time I get to the hair and the clothing, I will be letting the paint be a little looser. The lips are important to get correct. And also a little bit of the light coming through her ear makes for a bit of a brighter note. Continuing to put in the darker areas of the face where the sun doesn't reach quite as much. The colors will gradually get a little bit lighter subtle changes in color and value. And though there are darker areas in the creases of her cheeks and around her nose, I want to make sure that I keep these transitions really soft. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is very blended, it just means the color transition's very soft. In fact, I'm going to have a few more brush strokes in the face as I get going, just to give the face interest and keep it from getting too blended. I'm working with a soft synthetic brush here and just a touch of linseed oil in my paint. Though I generally avoid getting too blendy with things, with this portrait, it's fairly softly done, and there are several areas where it's quite blended. Gradually working in successively lighter tones. I'm quite careful with the details on her face just to make sure I get everything just right. I'll probably spend just as much time on this face as I will all the rest of the painting combined. As you saw from the previous video, I mixed up several variations of flesh tones. And I will occasionally switch to newer brushes if it gets to be a more extreme change of color or value, but I will often dip from one tone to the other when they're quite close to each other, wiping the brush in between. Children are difficult to paint because the variations are so subtle, yet if you're going to get a likeness, you have to have them in the right place. So it's quite a particular thing to paint. Working out the last little details on her lips. A lot of these touches are very subtle, but they each just make a bit of a difference. Sometimes going back and forth to make sure I get it where I want it. And with lighter colors again, going in and working out the shapes of the nose just by painting the subtle value variations where I see them. So it's often a back and forth between reinforcing something and then softening it again and then reinforcing it again, just until I have the effect that I want.